So here we are. I've decided to catch up with someone I haven't previously brought in on virtually there. It's Bogdan Mitrache or Mitrache. Sorry, get that correct. He's from Advanced Installer. I met him at Ignite a couple years ago and hung out at their booth a little bit. I guess I also got introduced to your product through the MVP program because you used to, I think you might still have a little special for that, for MVPs to try out your product. Yeah, so I've done some work with Advanced Installer amongst many tools I've used, and I've liked it a fair bit because it's fairly straightforward. It has a lot of wizard-driven property capabilities, so you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel every time you need to do something like create a scheduled task or add a service or something like that to your package. It provided a lot of easy editing, which I liked. I guess, first, I guess, welcome. And, secondly, it's good to take a look at what you're doing because you're one of the vendors out there that's embracing MSIX and still going with a bit of an MSIX theme on my show. So I thought it'd be great to get you in and get your opinion. So again, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for joining me, for inviting me. Actually, my name for my international name is Bogdan Mitrache. It's much more easier to pronounce, and it adds like a nice Spanish background, even if I'm not from Spain. But I like Spain a lot, so it's my favorite vacation spot.
Good weather, yeah.
Yes, as you said, we're a leader in the MSIX adoption since we've worked together with Microsoft with the introduction in MSIX, and before of that with the desktop bridge within the desktop bridge program. Its precursor, the Apex packages, for those of you that have been such big fans of modernization and maybe have tried it. We have had some customers in that area too. And it's been really exciting times in the last almost 2 years now, because MSIX was announced last year, but we're working on its basic support and all of the integration with Microsoft since the fall of 2017, I think. And it has come a long way. Of course, there are still things that we need to support, but with the latest additions for services, for exactly, it opens up the gates for a lot more line of business scenarios, which so far have been a showstopper for some of our customers. And basically, we're trying to push the envelope in adoption for MSIX within multiple directions. So the main part that we know to do best is to provide great tools for the packagers, and especially the more complex the technology becomes, that's where we see more value in easy to use and easy to learn tools. And as all of our users so far have noticed, that's our main focus, making the application easy to learn and just abstracting all the complexity that is included in the packages. And the other thing that we're focusing on a lot, especially with MSIX, because it's a new technology, is creating content, educational content for all of our users. We find this like a moral duty, since we've been the first tool that has included the MSIX support. It's a moral duty for us to also educate the market in everything that's included in MSIX, starting from how to create basic packages, all the limitations, what support you have for certain MSIX features in every Windows update, because this is kind of a new territory for everybody managing applications with the current Windows updates. And also what's new and how our team is working on to integrate these powerful features into Advanced Installer, and also to upgrade them a little bit, because the standard, the ones that just come natively delivered by Microsoft, provide quite a steep learning curve initially to get them on board.
Yeah, so you've been one of the vendors that have taken the package support framework and have kind of integrated it into the packaging process. So it's less of a black art, I would say, with your tool, rather than using the Microsoft packaging tool. Like, I think people realize that the Microsoft packaging tool, it's free, it's available, but it's really there to get your feet wet.
Well, especially for the package support framework integration, I could say it's more like a tooltip notification that there is a package support framework. But other than that, the packaging tool from Microsoft doesn't do anything for you to help you integrate them. It just says the button, hey, add my fix-up. It doesn't tell you what fix-up you need. It doesn't tell you if you need a fix-up or not, or even how to configure it, which is usually the hardest part after you realize that you need a fix-up.
Yeah.
And what we do is try to hide all of that complexity. So basically with Advanced Installer, I've demoed this last year at the Ignite in 2018. Yeah, 2018. I was thinking if we're 2020 yet. So in my 2018 session at the Ignite, I've demoed our first support for the package support framework. It was just released back then by Microsoft. And what we do is basically we integrate the open source project, which is available on Microsoft GitHub repositories, into our own application. And then we extend that with our own debugging interface. So when your app is just failing to launch or crashing while executing it, we just have one button that says trace my app. At that stage, we generate a new package in which we insert the tracing DLLs from the package support framework. Those are standard DLLs provided by Microsoft. We trace the app, we analyze the log, and for the most common issues, we provide automated fixes like right-click and say, add my fix for this type of generic error, like file redirection, current working directory not being correctly detected, or we've had some custom fix-ups. One was reported actually by Tim on the Microsoft forum, so we kind of stole the idea from there because they didn't bother to fix it. So we said, okay, that's easy to fix. It was another DLL loading problem. I don't remember exactly. And there was a problem with a customer that had standard HTML files in each install directory, which he was serving as user guide documentation. And basically, when you try to launch that as an HTML page from the package, the IE host was just crashing from a new VP process or something like that. And of course, they didn't bother to fix that either. So all of those are just like one-click fixes. And basically, we abstract. You don't have to get the repository from the Microsoft site. You don't have to build any binaries from that code. And you don't even have to know how to configure them. Because the configuration in most of the cases means to be not an expert, but it needs to have some basic regex knowledge, and then to pinpoint do a better understanding of the resources from inside the package. And usually when you generate, when you repackage a package, you kind of know that this is my main app. These are the file associations, if you have some of them, and kind of that's all. And we try to hide all of that in the background.
No, it's a good approach because this takes me back to the AppV days because, just knowing the type of people I got as IT pro packagers, they would generally, the majority of them put in that position would either do silent command lines, or if they were using AppV, they would just go next, 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 and hope that it worked. And if it didn't work, the remediation was usually beyond them. They didn't have the skill. You would have the smart packager or two. Maybe you were lucky enough to have a senior guy that understood what was going on under the hood and could fix those packages. But I think that was always a problem with AppV is you needed that guy to get your success rate up with the applications. So it's good to hear that you understand or see that challenge, and that you have to make it easy.
Obviously, and besides this improvements in advanced installer, from time to time we also work on separate free tools to help with debugging these kind of scenarios. For example, we've made a small wrapper over basically some PowerShell commandlets that allow you to run an exe inside the bubble of an MSIX container. You had the same functionality in different modes in AppV, but here it was like it was a commandlet that wasn't even known to Microsoft employees. I know at one point I referenced it to them and said, "Oh, that's good. I didn't know we could do that." And that was the moment I realized that probably a lot of users don't know. And let's present this in a much simpler way. So we have on our website a section that's tools called. Basically, there are some free tools there for AppV, and this one is called Hover. We had like a debate, and we didn't find a better name, and said, let's hover around the container, something like that. It sounded cool. And this basically is a free tool that people can take and use it to take a look at, see, for example, you want to run a regedit or a command prompt inside the container and to run in the same virtual environment when you're testing something. Mm-hmm. That's another step that we're doing in this direction to help you easily get started with the MSIX, because there's a ton of information around that.
Yes. Yeah, and it's good to hear the tool development, and you have your blog series, which I've actually started to check out. I didn't realize you had that going on. So you got some good tools and tricks. Sorry.
Sorry, I just want to say, to be honest, in the first 6 months, that was a kind of a hassle for me to keep it on a steady schedule, because that's when we were building a new marketing team dedicated for this area. And it was like half of the time working with the team to set the grounds up, and half of the time, let's write some articles in the meantime so we don't get rusty. And now things are starting to work a lot more better. And for example, now the guys are working on a big article around how to use modification packages, which will be a huge topic around MSIX. And we're learning along the way too, so I'm sure everybody will find a lot of information useful in there. We've seen very good feedback around the first article, which I wrote last summer, was the MSIX introduction tutorial. Mm-hmm. And that has seen very, very positive feedback from the users, and we're trying now to expand the primary topics from that into separate articles, because obviously there's a lot more information that we couldn't touch in there.
Yeah. Once you get into the weeds, there's a lot of content that needs to be written. So in addition to what you're doing with the main tool, you mentioned you have an Express edition that is going into the Microsoft Store?
Yeah, so last year when MSIX was announced, we were the official release partner, and with that occasion we released this Express edition dedicated to building MSIX packages from scratch. It's a free edition without any strings attached to it. You just download it and create as many packages as you want. It provides, again, our very easy to use and very powerful user interface. So you can do everything that you do mostly with the paid editions, but you don't have access to the MSI stuff, which usually pays the bills for us.
Yeah.
And this edition is now in a transition phase to the MSIX, to the Microsoft Store. Surprisingly enough, even if it's a 18-year code base in the background, there are very little changes that we need to do from a developer perspective. So the only reason that got delayed was that Christmas is coming, and the guys that were working on it had to finish other stuff before they had to switch on this task. But it was pretty easy to reconfigure it and say this time we're sending it at an MSIX instead of an MSI, and will be soon available as a free edition, as a free tool for everybody wanting to do MSIX. The particularity around this is that tools like this one will need special approval from Microsoft, because obviously there is a repackager that needs to run elevated in there to do your repackaging. And Initially, Microsoft wanted to do this publishing in the store actually last year at Ignite in 2018. And I don't know the reasons exactly. There's a big team back there at Microsoft, but something got delayed and they said, okay, we're postponing the support for IT Pro tools in the store for now. And now they said, let's get back to it and see how we can improve it. So they're actually seeing, and they're clearly seeing the value from the partners that come and create these tools and extend it. Because as we've learned in the past, Microsoft is focused on the platform and less on the tools that they provide us with. So they're giving us the opportunity and other partners to just say, hey, the store is open for you. Just tell us what you need to have the apps approved and ready to publish them. So probably January will be like a late Santa for somebody, but we'll definitely be in the store back then. And we're really excited to see, even from an ISV perspective, because it's the first time we have an app in the Microsoft Store.
Yes. No, I think that's important. We need to see more and more tools and use, like, I hate to say it, but the store got a bit of a bad rap because you talk to an IT manager and he's like, why do I want this store? It's just full of games. And so that then, they would, in their Windows 10 upgrade, they would avoid using the store. They would just be like, no, that's a future roadmap thing. Let's not turn that on. So yeah, I think it's important that ISVs get on board and build better apps or add apps to the store so we can get that story going, and more organizations will onboard that infrastructure into their app delivery ecosystem.
All the customers that we've seen using the store use it in a hybrid solution. So it's like, okay, we have config man, maybe in tune, depending on what requirement we have, and the store is to add some additional tools or the store for business. Mm-hmm. But we haven't seen anybody saying the store is enough for me. Obviously, we're far away from that, especially with the legacy app. What we've seen, and I forgot to mention that earlier when we've had in our previous conversation, is that we've seen some customers with their IT departments, to be honest, a few hundreds, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 users. They said they had such a modern infrastructure that they are going completely MSIX with their apps. So we had even at some point code edits, because there were government institutions from EU. And they said, hey, we want to take a look at these areas of your code because it ends up in the MSIX, especially around the package support framework, when they realize that if they exclude that package support framework, as you've seen in Teams report, like half of your applications stop working. Yeah. So they understood that you need the package support framework, and especially you needed how we provide it because it's much easier to use it. And you don't spend like months learning how to use it. And when they said that, okay, then we need to audit your code because that's a liability issue for us. And everything got okay because there's nothing complicated around that code. It's just the basic fix-ups that half of them are documented in Microsoft repository. And we've been really excited to see that they went fully on MSIX because security is their primary reason, especially for governmental institutions. Everything they need want to be signed. And we've seen such a request even from ISV customers, developers that package their apps from scratch. So unlike with AppV, it's a very pleasant situation in the last 6 to 9 months that I constantly see in the conversation our support team has with customers, ISVs asking about MSIX and how to build it. So Team's hopes about getting ISV adoptions are in the right direction. It will take time, of course, because what ISVs hate the most is to deliver 2 packages. Actually, they hate delivering packages. If they could give you the binaries, that would be perfect. I still see cases. I don't remember if you saw my tweet last week. I see cases where people say, hey, I finished my app. We're delivering it January 1st. Oh, we should build an installer for it. Who's the junior guy in our team? Let him build the installer. Yeah. If you tell them now that they need to build 2 installers, nobody wants to do it. So it depends on their market. If they're targeting Windows 10, that's fine. So already MSIX support now goes all the way back to 1709, if I remember correctly. And from what we've heard from Microsoft, most of the Windows 10 back users are on 1809 or more.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So as I said, ISV adoption is completely different. So practically for AppV, when we included in advanced SR, we've seen no feedback from ISVs saying. I remember a team saying that he had only one consulting customer that said somebody wants to build an AppV before they deliver to their customers. But besides that instance, I never seen an ISV asking about AppV. Whereas with MSIX, the interest is much higher. So Microsoft at least is doing a very good job on evangelizing the technology, and obviously the benefits of added security, separation updates, and all the improvements that come along with MSIX, including the store, which is attractive for some because they don't want to manage updates. You trust me, you don't want to manage payments for software online. But there are good advantages that come. The only showstopper is those that still want to deliver on Windows 7, because we have the MSIX core, but it doesn't give you the same experience as you would install an MSI on Windows 7. You don't have rollback, you don't have all the integration points with the system. Basically, MSIX core is a 7-zip on Windows 7, to be fairly clear in specs terms. So Microsoft now, I think, has announced that Ignite, they're providing an MSI package for MSIX core. So basically, you can install it as a prerequisite, as you would do in the old times when you had like a Windows installer 3.5 and you wanted to update it to support like embedded MSIs, and the same thing you could do with this, then just have a bootstrapper that first installs MSIX core, and then you can run your MSIX on Windows 7. But I still haven't seen a customer interested in doing that.
No, I don't know if that's just to make developers make them feel secure in using MSIX, that they can go and get some down-level client support. But yeah, to me, it just seems that it's really meant for Windows 10. And yeah, I don't know who's going to use
Probably it was just a checkbox on their list to be ticked and say, hey, we have support for Windows 7, and that's it. But their focus is mainly Windows 10, as you said, and that was visible, for example, now with before Ignite 2018, they announced a minor improvement to the packaging support framework when they said, we've listened to your feedback and we understand that you need to customize the deployment experience. So here is PowerShell support. So now every time when you push a package, the trigger points for PowerShell scripts in an MSIX package are launching and closing an application. We don't have yet triggers for publishing or unpublishing or other events as we had in AppV, but it's a good start. So that still gives us a lot of integration. So that's available too in the Express edition and all of our paid editions. For those that do also packaging and for MSI and MSIX. Okay. And it's starting to open a few more doors along with the services support. So it's right now it's at a pretty basic level, but once we see adoption, I'm sure we'll have more useful feedback to see how we can improve it. And being open source, the package support framework, that shouldn't be that much of a problem now with Microsoft. Things have changed in the last 5 years or so.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So I guess with additional features, you've also implemented PowerShell script support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're moving pretty fast. Here I'm going to criticize Steam a little bit. I don't know why he thinks that Microsoft moves faster than ISVs. Seriously. I mean, they have 2 Windows updates now, which is practically more than 1 Windows update, and a fall update, which is at least after the 1809 updates, when they destroyed all those app data profiles, they've taken it a more cool down approach right now. So we have like one release each month. Christmas might be skipped. So let's say 11 releases each year. So we're moving pretty fast around this. And basically any new updates that comes around the packaging support framework or anything that's updated, basically we have it there when it's already announced in the insider builds, because we are part of the Microsoft MSIX partners organization, which includes us and other companies in the packaging world. So basically everything that getting shipped publicly, it's something that everybody from the packaging world knows at least 3 months ahead. So we have time to prepare and to make sure that you guys have the tools to leverage it. And on top of that, we're now working on improving the experience for cases when we are not up to date. So for example, you want to modify the manifest from your package because something, there's a new flag that Microsoft forgot to document. It happens often. And you want to manually include that in the package. We usually have a nice user interface where you just go with a checkbox and tick the options that you want in the manifest. But for such cases, we're now working on a manifest editor, which is a very nice and easy to use interface that basically will keep a sync between what you usually see in advanced installer user interface and the raw manifest that will be generally produced at the end in your package. So you can go back and forward and extend the manifest with some very rare option that maybe your app has. And on top of that, we've just released the MSIX editor, which hopefully will make the life much easier for a lot of people, because in the AppV days, it was nightmare for me to edit any AppV package. So you need to start the sequencer, go through all the wizard steps, and just edit some files or very rudimentary edit options. So now, basically, with the editor in Advanced Installer, you have the same experience as when you are creating the package. We open, you see files, shortcuts, file association, registry, everything is transparent. So if you have the original project from which we created that MSIX, or if you just have the MSIX, which was created with Advanced Installer or with the packaging tool from Microsoft or with any other compatible tool, then you can edit that with just 2 clicks. And on top of that, because we want to keep tracking of what we're editing, we're adding a very nice comparison tool. We've actually demoed a preview of this at the App Manag event. I don't know if they record the session back there. It's a pretty small niche conference in Europe. It's like 300, 400 people.
Yeah, I think they recorded them this year.
So we've done a demo back there. One of my colleagues actually has done a demo with this tool. It has evolved a little bit after that. So basically, you will be able to see the high-level components from your MSIX package without having to go through all the noise that you usually see in a manifest, for example. You don't care about closing tags or opening tags in the XML or noise. You just want to see what's different. And hey, you have an application. These are my shortcut arguments, which is a custom support right now in Advanced Installer because Microsoft doesn't support it natively yet. I saw on their roadmap on the MSIX community forum that it's planned to be added, I think, probably in the spring. But on top of that, you can easily see differences, for example, when you go from version 1 to version 2 and so on in the application. And hopefully that will make them life much easier, because I think it will mostly be used as a learning tool. Once you start grabbing this new technology and you see, hey, I made these little changes, I'm wondering what's happening inside my package. We had in the past, I don't know if you use Super Orca to make diffs in the between 2 MSIs.
Oh, yeah.
11 years ago when I started this industry, it was a really useful tool for me back then. So I'm hoping this MSIX compare will be like my Santa gift for the packager when we release it. This will be released together with the manifest editor, so probably in the January, maybe February timeline if something really blocking comes up. But Usually it shouldn't be. So we're playing with MSIX for 2 years now. It's hard to see any blocking issues.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's some good stuff you got coming up on the horizon and that we can look forward to. The company's advanced installer. I'll have the URL in the comments, and I thank you for making some time to talk about all the great things you're doing over on your side and give us some perspective from the tooling development world. And I don't know, is there anything else you want to add?
One thing actually I forgot. I don't know how I forgot that. So that's MSIX app attach, which is just to quickly mention it. So Microsoft feedback following Ignite 2019 was very positive. So they are very convinced it will be a huge addition to the ecosystem, to the MSIX ecosystem. So we have already seen partners like Citrix and VMware announcing future support for it. So through WVD, and that will be a nice add-on for the VDI environments. And basically, any package that is generated with advanced installer or the packaging tool will be natively supported on an MSIX app attach infrastructure. So we're very keen to see how we can even increase that usability for that feature in the future. So we have a plan to work with some of the industry partners. It's something in the early beginning, so hopefully we'll have something to announce around build or March when there are usually other Microsoft announcements. But of course, one of the key elements will be to focus on continuously educating the users, because now with app attached, there's even more information. If we still didn't have enough for MSIX, there's a lot more things to add. So
I
that's
think it's
the
huge
only
for
key topic that we missed.
Yeah, for the VDI people, I think it's going to be a huge thing to have app management using app attach. It definitely has the potential to be less clunky than other delivery methods, the worst being using SCCM, but you can get a little bit better with AppV, but app attach seems to be the best story if it works out.
Yes, Microsoft dreams of seeing even adoption around the ISV area, where ISVs knowingly build applications ready for app attach using APIs that they recommend. I'm a little bit more cautious. So first I want to see AppVs being MSIX practice purely. And then when we have MSIX, we can see about app attach and others, how to better improve the experience. Let's take it one step at a time.
Yes, for sure.
Other than that, thank you very much, Kevin, for inviting me.
Yes.
It was a pleasure seeing you again. Hopefully next Ignite will give us the opportunity to meet in person.
Yes.
And we will have even bigger news until next time.
Yeah, that's for sure.